Well, we are back for another episode of Fertility Ain't Fair, the podcast. I'm your host, Brittany Jackson, and I am never alone in this seat, which is so exciting for me because I don't have to do this alone, and you don't either. So we are happy to have Megan Skinnell. She is joining us from Holsoma Health, and we have, as always, a lot to uncover, a lot to unpack. But let's get straight to the bio because the girls that I have on here have all the acronyms, the letters, the things behind their names, and we want to give credit where credit is due. So first and foremost, Megan is an RN, a BSN, an AFMC, but that all means to say she is a registered nurse, a certified health coach, and the founder of Holsoma Health, a coaching platform focused on functional wellness for women. She is applied functional medicine certified through the School of Applied Functional Medicine, and she blends her nursing background with functional medicine with principles to educate and coach women on things like gut health, their metabolic balance, reproductive health, and cycle literacy, all things that we are going to try to touch on today. I feel like we already need part 2 and 3 and 4 at this point, but we will cover as much as we possibly can today, guys. But her work centers on foundational nutrition and lifestyle strategies that support hormonal resilience and empower women to make better choices, to understand their bodies, and advocate confidently in this crazy healthcare system. So Megan, welcome to Fertility Ain't Fair.
Thank you for having me. That was quite the introduction. I don't even
You've done a lot. You've got quite the bio. And we always want to give credit because it takes a long time to get all those things behind your name, and to give you the credibility. So we're happy to have you and have your skill set and it's your passion for being in this space. So I want to thank you already for being a resource, not only to our community, but to the community as a whole, because these are all things that I don't think a lot of us grew up learning. So now we're all adults learning.
Yeah, that's certain. Yes, for sure.
Yes. So before, funny enough, you asked me a question earlier, an icebreaker question before we hopped on. So now I have one for you, but I ask all my guests, which is, how are you currently defining yourself? Like for our listeners, we're meeting you for the first time. Are there words or phrases that you would like to give us to kind of define who you are in this current season?
I would have to say resilient. I think that's the best word. Yeah, because you might not be able to curse on this podcast, though. No,
we're free here. No judgment. We're free.
I wouldn't say that bitch, but I'm gonna say resilient for now. But
fair.
Just taking everything as it comes and rolling with the punches, baby.
Fully understand, and I embrace that for you and for all of us who are also in that space. So life is lifing every single minute of the day.
Yeah.
But we're here. So resilience is definitely what that looks like. So I think as we try to decide where to start, I think starting with gut health, because I feel like it's been, at least in my world, like my algorithm has been gut health friendly for the last like year or two. But honestly, it's been a lot overwhelming, I'll say, because it's like a buzzword, right? It's like the trending thing. Everyone's talking about it. And it's not a new situation, but I feel like it's new to a lot of us because, again, it wasn't something that was discussed in health class, or it's not really, I think, widely discussed in a lot of providers' offices unless you go to, a functional wellness practice a lot of times, or nutritionalist. So can you tell us, when people are talking about gut health, what does that actually mean? And if someone's like, okay, I've heard this a while, maybe I should get my gut health together, like, where do you start, right? Are there baseline tests to figure out what my gut is currently doing and how I can do better? Because probably all of us have to do better in gut health.
Yeah. So in functional medicine, like you're taught, disease begins in the gut. So I put quotations because that's true for some, but not always to everyone else. But, so first of all, I always like to get a really hearty intake form just to make sure what's going on. Like if you're having skin issues, if you're having eczema, like a lot of people don't associate that to your gut. but it definitely can correlate with your gut. If you're getting chronic like yeast infections, of course, if you're having diarrhea, bloating, constipation, those types of things, heartburn. So those are like your overt signs. But gut health overall, in my head, I like to think of like your colon as New York City. So you have the good guys, like the bad guys, the misdemeanors, which are like certain pathogens that can cause dysbiosis. And then you have like really bad guys, and that's like C. diff or, E. coli and those types of things where you're going to really know if you're having some gut issues. But the thing about with what's going on in your gut is it causes so much inflammation. So it's going to present systemically. So that's when you can start getting the skin issues and the infertility issues. So that's one of the tests. If you're having infertility, I like to look at that as like a marker of something, like a symptom. There's something going on here. So I want to take a deeper dive. So, we're going to look at inflammatory markers. I'm going to do the Hardy intake. And then we do like some stool testing. You can always do like GI mapping, or there's other tests too that other different providers can do. And then you're put on a protocol. I hate saying the word protocol, but you're put on like a plan, and that's kind of tailored to whatever your test results are. But I would like to caveat that. So you can't supplement your way. So even if you're put on this really great plan, if the food you're eating is, fast food, if you're eating a lot of like refined carbs and not so much, plant food and proteins and things like that, if you're not stabilizing your blood sugar and all of those things, then your testing there's no point to do a test. I like to do the foundational parts first.
Yeah. So when I first went into like learning about functional medicine and going to nutritionals, and I did my stool test and the GI mapping and all those things, and I was like, oh, I had dysbiosis. That sucks. Like, what is that? I'm like, who knew? But to your point, I think a lot of people are like, well, I can just supplement my way out of this, and that. And I'm so glad that you made that point, because I've heard that before. Again, now knowing what I know now, right? You just can't keep taking supplements and thinking that, the other parts are not going to affect that. And, it's really funny. I was like, okay, I'm not eating terribly. Like, I know what I'm supposed to eat and all those different things. But as someone who has endometriosis, and I've had fibroids and cysts my whole life, and a number of other things that I think back now, I'm like, oh yeah, that's probably what this was back then. I didn't know. I was like, when I finally got like an inflammation test, right? Like a food test, for example, I was like, there's good foods on here, but for some reason they are showing up as inflammatory for me, at this point in my life. So I think even if you think like, well, I eat well and I'm doing this and I'm working out and I'm taking the supplements, I'm doing all these things, but something's still not right. Like, it very well still may be something going on that you are ingesting, or it could be, the chemicals and the soap, whatever it is. But there's so much to take in when you're looking at this. So I love that you have this, robust intake, and you're looking at all of the inside out things from a standpoint. And I also love that you said, if you're having fertility issues or infertility, you might want to start here, right? I mean, yeah, sure. Get the other tests, get the baseline medical stuff done, right? Yeah, sure. But that shouldn't be the only route that you take. And I feel like so often, I know in my experience, like that was the first path, right? It was like, hey, we're going to go straight into all the fertility stuff and the drugs and the trying and leading all up to IVF, and doing that with limited success. And no one ever was like, hey, maybe you should focus on this other side of it that could be affecting it. And I truly believe, you don't know what you don't know, but like kind of reversing it, right? Like I should have probably started on the other side with the functional testing, and then make my way over back to the medical side.
But it's
to help.
hard. So
It's so hard. You do what you do with what you have, right?
Up. Don't live in the
I
past.
don't. Yeah. And I say that now, and I can say it now, I like having a full breakdown. But like, because now I know I did my best with what I knew at the time, right? But I think as we're educating, people, I'm like, I'm trying to reach people to do it the right way for themselves.
Sure.
But I love that you mentioned those things. And I think, yeah.
Oh, sorry. But like touching on the foods that kind of come up. So what happens is you have these cells and they're kind of they're just one cells and they're just hanging out. So that's kind of like this is where leaky gut happens basically. So I like to think of that as like a screen. So good things are coming out. They're supposed to be things, but it's supposed to keep out like mosquitoes, if you will, if that kind of makes sense. So basically you're getting your minerals and everything's going. So a normal working, that's what it looks like. So when you're having leaky gut or dysbiosis, that's going to be causing some inflammation. So the inflammation then, of course, will start breaking those chains. So then now, instead of that screen, imagine if you just went and poked a bunch of holes in it. So now you're letting different things out, like proteins with foods, specifically gluten, those mimic things. So then what happens is that's where it's happening systemically. So now you're having these proteins hang out, and your immune system knows it's not supposed to be there, but it doesn't really want to fully turn on. And this is kind of where it's like, all right, I'm going to hang out and I'm just going to watch these guys. So that's where you're going to get that low grade inflammation. So when you're having that low grade inflammation, everybody hears that with infertility, like, oh, we have to get your inflammation down. We have to get your inflammation down. So that's where the gut health piece is coming into play, because as you know, you're picking out the follicle, like as FSH is going to the follicle, inflammatory markers and things like that can really mess with how that follicle grows. And then that affects the egg quality. So then that can really mess with like your ovulation, which we really don't want. So just wanted to touch on that with like your sensitivities, because that's where, and I hate doing quotations, sorry. I talk with my hands. My parents are from New York. But that's where you're getting food sensitivities from, or those chains breaking. And that's what leaky gut essentially is. So
see, that explained it very well, actually.
I know most people are like, where are you going with this? And I'm like,
no, not at all. I'm tuned in because I'm at this point a nerd for this kind of stuff. So I'm like, no, give me all of it, so I can understand it. And I'm glad you brought just up just how big inflammation can play a part in literally everything. I think, again, it's something that we hear a lot of, but we don't really know like what it means. We don't understand like, okay, well, what do you mean? Like, how do I decrease it? Or what can it affect? And I feel like it impacts literally everything, right? Like there's so many different conditions or diseases that, again, I'm not a doctor, but, you know, that the root, there probably is systemic or root issues, you know, caused by inflammation that are literally leading us to having all these different health issues. And if we're able to, you know, find ways to minimize and to get it kind of in check, you know, a lot of people could, you know, come off certain medications or, you know, come off of just different paths, and being unwell because of inflammation. It's so important. And again, something that I was not really aware of for a very, very, very long time. And even when I heard like, oh, you have endometriosis, which is an extremely inflammatory condition, it still was like, oh, you have it, but no big deal. I was like, okay, no big deal. Move right along.
Whatever. All right.
Well, you're not worried, neither am I. Like, mistake. Red flag number one. But yeah, so anyway, so getting into, you mentioned in the bio or in past discussions, we were emailing back and forth about the nervous system's role in your fertility. And so I wanted to touch on that because I think when we think nervous system role, we just think, oh, it's just like stress. It's okay. It's whatever, you know, oh, it's fine. And yes, we know that like stress, you know, medically may not cause infertility. I want to be, you know, clear. It may not be a direct link to you being infertile, but it does have an effect on your entire body and optimizing your fertility and other things. But I think I want to touch on it because, you know, one of the triggering statements that a lot of people hear when they're going through infertility or fertility challenges is, oh, just relax.
I can't stand that.
It's
have a glass of wine.
Yeah, go on vacation, or we went on vacation both times and got pregnant so easily, or, you know, whatever. And so I want to be clear that, you know, understanding your nervous system is very different than someone telling you to just relax. But
100%. I feel like if people actually knew what was happening in their body, so when I have someone sitting in front of me and I go into what's happening when they're stressed to their body, they're like, oh, and I'm like, yeah, it's not just stress. Like, it's just, oh, I'm just stressed.
Right. Oh, just anxiety. It's just, oh, everyone's anxious, everyone's stressed. Like, that's the life we live. Like, it's like, no. So can you break down a little bit about how that system in our body can have a role in either, I think, optimizing your fertility or not optimizing fertility?
Yeah. So basically, I like to put this in perspective. So when we are stressed, that is, think of back when we were a caveman and a tiger came out of the woods and you had to run. You're stressed. Now think of everything you need when you're running for your life. You need to be insulin resistant because you need to make sure you have enough blood sugar to be circulating and get your body moving. Your blood needs to be going to the vital organs. It doesn't need to be going to your reproductive system at all. There's no need for that right now. It doesn't need to be digesting food. So then you can get a ton of dysbiosis from chronic stress. It doesn't need half of the things that we need to rest and digest because we're running for our lives. So if that's happening chronically, that's a whole other story, but it is good to be stressed. Like, so if someone cuts you off in traffic and it's, and it stops there or something like that, sure, cortisol raises. So cortisol is anti-inflammatory. You're given that, if you're given steroids, if you're having lung issues, they'll open it up. It helps with inflammation, but chronic cortisol actually can cause inflammation and it causes the insulin resistance. And your ovaries are so responsive to insulin resistance and it can trigger like testosterone production as well. And it basically is letting your body know that it is not safe to be pregnant right now. So don't do it. Or it'll just start skipping ovulation completely because it senses like she can't get pregnant right now. She's stressed. We're not safe right now. So I always like to touch on that it's not just like, oh, I'm having anxiety. It's like, this is happening to your body. And then you're never kind of training your nervous system, which I should have rewound. I can get on tangents. But you have, your rest and digest mode, and then you have your fight or flight. So if you're not going back and forth and you're just getting stuck in that fight or flight, you're never cleaning house. So rest and digest is kind of when you start detoxing, when your body kind of like relaxes finally and it starts, cleaning out house. Like if there's cells that aren't working, they're going to get rid of them and those types of things. So again, if that's not happening, you're going to be inflamed.
I love the caveman tiger running. Like, we have no need for anything else besides getting out of here alive. Like, that's a really good, I guess, analogy to put, like, if your body is constantly in this I'm fighting for my life mode, like, it cannot make space for you to function in other areas because you're just worried about surviving. So that was a really good way to put it. So I will have that in my brain, like living rent free, the little cave person running the tiger behind him. I love that. That's good. That's good. So I guess on that same note, talking about, I guess, optimizing your fertility, one of the topics you mentioned in your email was like, there's like foundational health habits that you can create and that you can, get from people like yourself, to make those changes. And so I wanted you to just kind of mention maybe some of the core things. And again, everyone here knows that this is not medical advice. This is, every body literally is different. So, you take what you will and find out what you can on your own. But what are some of those foundational health habits that you think in general are important for those who are trying to optimize fertility? Again, if it's for natural conception or if it's for down the road or if it's for, fertility treatments.
Yeah. So sleep is like number one.
Yes.
So I like to your body as a road, like they're not working on the road and fixing the road during the day, that's going to cause traffic jams. They're going to be doing it at night. So it's your body's the same exact way. So it's going to start fixing that road when, you're sleeping. So getting 8 hours of good quality sleep, which you get better quality sleep when you're not chronically stressed. And even tracking it, some people like all the data. So tracking your sleep, making sure you're getting deep sleep and those types of things. Eating enough. So again, if you're chronically stressed and then you're under eating, your body's going to say, okay, now we're in a famine and she's stressed. It's really not a good time to carry a baby right now. So making sure, increasing the protein, which is such a buzzword right now. People are painting cottage cheese on their chicken breasts, but it really is true. So having a balanced diet, making sure, half your plate is veggies. You'd be surprised with how many people are like, oh no, I'm a meat and potatoes kind of a gal. I'm like, I'm sorry, but that's not going to fly. So balancing your blood sugar, because every time when your insulin is rising and falling, you're going to be inflamed. So we want to make sure that your blood sugars aren't spiking constantly, because that's going to be promoting inflammation. So blood sugar is such a big deal to me. And funny enough, your blood sugar spikes when you're chronically stressed. So I've had people wear continuous glucose monitors and their spikes aren't even correlated with food. It was correlated with, she was a counselor at the time. It was correlated with the people sitting in front of her, like certain stressful clients. Every time they would sit down, she would get a spike. And I was like, oh, well, you're stressed. It has nothing to do with what you're eating. So
Whoa.
I don't think people realize how impactful that is, what cortisol is actually doing. So, and if you're having blood sugar irregularities, you're not going to sleep very well, because chances are, if you're waking up between 2 and 4, a lot of times that cues in, not every time, but that cues into, okay, you're probably having a dip in your blood sugar and your body's trying to raise it back up. How it raises it back up is by cortisol. So cortisol is going to trump melatonin every time. So you're going to wake up between 2 and 4 because you're just going to get a spurt, and then you might fall back asleep. Some people don't, just depends. But that always clues me in I wonder if you're having any blood sugar issues. But again, it doesn't always happen, but always on my radar. So, yeah. And then movement. So I don't like to say exercise. I find that can be triggering for women, but just movement. Find something that you like doing. If it's surfing, dancing, lifting weights is really great. But again, if you really hate lifting weights, then that's impeding you to even go to the gym because you don't want to go. Just start dancing. Just do something. Just do something you like. Just go walk. Yeah. So you don't have to be perfect right out the get. And there's so many people who are like, you have to do weights. You have to do this. You have to do that. So they have this all or nothing mentality. But I like to kind of, in my coaching, the way I coach is, we're just going to chip away at it, and it's going to start becoming kind of like your lifestyle. So it's not going to feel like such a big change, but you're going to get there. So that's kind of, just give yourself grace.
Yeah. And it seems so simple, but it's not. And breaking it down that way makes it, again, more attainable. It makes it more realistic. Like I said, you have to enjoy it in order to make it a habit, to make it a routine, to make it a lifestyle change. So it can't be what you hate, because again, that's never going to create sustainable change. And I love that you mentioned that, because I feel like I too used to have that, oh, well, I have to, okay, well, Mondays is going to be, I don't know, cardio, and Tuesday is going to be this, and Wednesday is going to be weights, and Thursday will be yoga. And it was like, what are you doing? What are you doing to yourself? That's great if that is what best serves you.
Yeah.
Then I found out that for me, it was not best serving, because I could not maintain that level of regiment. Every day has to be this. First, like you said, looking at movement instead of exercise is a really good point, because when I started doing that, I was like, okay, I have to move every day. My organs get stuck. I have endo, this body has to move and stretch and walk. And so walking literally every single day, at least, even a mile, whatever it is, just do something.
I don't care.
Yeah. And doing, or yoga stretching every single day, or doing Pilates. And for me, that has been the most consistent I've been since I was probably in college, working out normally and cheering and whatever else. But as a real adult, the most consistent the last couple of years has been because I made that switch to like, okay, I have to move every day. So what's the movement going to be versus I have to do this regimented workout routine. So I think that this makes it, again, just easier to bite off.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
just want to add one more thing that I forgot, which is probably the most important thing because it ties with everything, is I want to make sure that you have vitamin J in your life. So especially, it's so stressful having fertility issues. I had 3 miscarriages and it was just like, it's hard. It's a hard thing to go through. So making sure you're doing things that you like doing, like that bring you joy. So that's going to be great for your nervous system, and it's going to be great, for you as a whole, especially, not being stressed all the time.
I love vitamin J.
Yes.
That's cute. Okay. That could be a timeless episode. We'll see. One thing you did mention that I wanted to go back to was the blood sugar and monitoring your glucose. So I think, again, I've only learned this in the last couple of years. Again, how important it is, but also that, like, okay, it's not just like a diabetic thing, you know what I mean? But how does someone kind of measure their glucose on a day-to-day so they can, I guess, track and see if I'm spiking, if I'm dipping? Like, what's the best way for someone to do that?
So this is a nuanced question. I like to see who the person is in front of me. There's sometimes people who do really well with the information. They feel like they're in control. And then there's some people who get really overwhelmed with the information. So I always like to kind of tailor that to them. So for instance, I don't suggest CGMs or continuous glucose monitors to everybody because I can find it to be more stressful than being beneficial, because they're constantly looking at their phones and they're like, why is this spiking? Why is this happening? Why is that? So I don't want that to happen. So I like to see the person in front of me. But honestly, when you can always ask your provider to order certain blood tests, and that's going to kind of give you an overall picture of how your blood sugar is doing. So there's 3 of them that will show kind of like a full picture, 4 if you really want to get nerd out with it. But A1C is going to be like over the 3 months how you're doing, your fasting blood sugar, and then your fasting insulin. So you really need all 3 to get a clear picture, because sometimes you'll get a great A1C and you'll get a great insulin, but guess what? Your glucose is so high. That lets me know that your cortisol awakening response is massive. Or could be massive. But so looking at all 3 is really deterrent. You're not going to get a full picture, especially if you're just getting an A1C or a fasting blood glucose. It's just you're not going to get a full picture, because you could be having insulin resistance and not even know it.
Okay. That's important. That's helpful.
And then the continuous glucose monitor, of course. But for some people, it's more stressful than
Understand.
Yeah.
I'd be that person. Like, what's happening? What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? Like, drive myself crazy. But hey, like I said, for some, it might be very beneficial. So I love the options. We have options here.
Yes.
Can we go to now cycle literacy? Because I like the way that you put
Yes.
it. Yes. I feel like, again, we could be in our 20s, 30s, 40s plus, and this is a no judgment zone, and it's okay to be like, you know what? I've never really understood my cycle. Because
No.
I feel like I was pretty much just told, hey, you might have you have PMS, and then you bleed, and that's it. And that happens every month until it doesn't, and there you go.
Yeah.
But like there's so many other parts to the full menstrual cycle that has nothing to do with actual bleeding. And they all have purpose and power behind it. And so, yes, can you give us, I guess, a snapshot of just the full menstrual cycle? And you mentioned like that could be a vital sign. Like, what could that be? What could that tell you outside of it's your cycle, outside of your bleeding? What can it actually tell you about your health as well?
So it can clue you into certain bigger like diagnoses that your provider would have for like, if you're having hypothalamic amenorrhea, if you're having PCOS, endometriosis, or adenomyosis, all of these types of things, or even a thyroid issue, it can point to. So it's a big deal. And I actually, I work at a direct primary care, and that's what I do quarterly is teach teenagers about their periods. So, because it's like a passion of mine, I'm like, just come learn about it. But it tells you so much, and women don't know. And then, you know, you're taught in school, if you sneeze, you're going to get pregnant. And then they didn't really necessarily tell you like, oh, if you're having issues and you're having really hard periods, this could be a clue in of something else going on. You might want to get this checked out when you're younger so it's not a later issue. So it's doing women just a disservice. But yeah, so there's 4 moving parts. So, or 4 phases basically. 2 if you just want to make it really simple, but the first one is going to be your period. So the start of your period is day 1 of your cycle. So many women, when I ask them how long their cycle is, they say 5 days. And I'm like, no, that's your period, my dear. How long is your cycle? So day 1 of your period is day 1 of your cycle. And then the last day of your cycle is the day before you start your next period. So that's what we're asking for. So normal is, what is it? 22, or what did they say?
It's like 20 something.
5 to,
I don't know.
Yes. Yeah. I have my things in my head. So
20 something.
Yeah. I'm thinking optimal. So, yeah. But I want to say it's 22 to 35 days, but don't quote me.
Yep.
But anyways, without a 5-day variance. So that's what I'm looking for, is there's not a 5-day variance. If there is, so like you can't have like a 23-day cycle and then all of a sudden a 35-day cycle. That's not, yeah, you're in the normal range, but that's not normal. That's telling us something. So the first phase is your period, which is actually in your follicular phase. So what's happening in your follicular phase is basically your brain is talking to your ovaries. So that's when your brain is kind of going down with what's called FSH, follicle stimulating hormone. And then the follicle actually, it's almost like a micromanager, and it's like, get a follicle ready, get a follicle ready, get a follicle ready. So then your follicle will respond back with estrogen, and it will say, thank you so much, we don't need that anymore. So then after that, your brain will respond back with LH, and then you ovulate. So then you're in your ovulatory cycle. So then the egg is released. The egg only lives for 12 to 16 hours. Nobody really knows, but it's there, and you can get pregnant. So going back to the follicular phase, when your estrogen's rising and it's peaking, this is when we feel fantastic. Our testosterone's high, our estrogen's high, we're feeling ourselves, we feel really good. And that's when we're trying to get pregnant. Our bodies are like, you better go get them. So, and that's happening on purpose. So then that's when you're getting that egg white mucus. And that's completely normal. Anywhere between like 7 to 2 days prior to ovulating, you'll get that mucus. And then sperm can live in that for like 5 days. So it's like a little room, and it'll stay in. So even if you don't have to have sex on the day you ovulate, you can get pregnant on the day, 2 days before, which I'm sure everybody knows who listens to your podcast, but for the sake. And then from there, so LH responds, and then the egg is released. So the egg is released, and then it leaves back what's called the corpus luteum. So now you're in your luteal phase. So your luteal phase typically doesn't change. It's anywhere from 12 to 14 days. If it's anything like 11 or 10 days, then you could have a luteal phase defect. But this is when progesterone's rising, because that corpus luteum is kind of making the progesterone rise. So that's when, if you're tracking, you're going to see that temperature rise, and that's where you're getting confirmed ovulation. So, and like I said, if you're having a longer cycle, it's probably on your follicular side, which is where that inflammation, hypothyroid, and everything, because FSH isn't really, your follicle's not responding to FSH. So, which can impact your luteal phase. So it all kind of ties together. So it's not like just one. It all, if you had a bad follicular phase, you're probably going to have a bad luteal phase. So it all kind of ties together. And then if you're not pregnant, if HCG doesn't take over and kind of let that corpus luteum start living, then your corpus luteum kind of dies. You don't get any progesterone, and then, you lose the lining. And then you start your period again.
all over again.
Yes.
Thank you for breaking that down. And I love that you're teaching girls and their teens like literally all of these different steps, because literally I don't think I heard a word of that when I was coming up. And maybe I didn't, I forgot, but I just really don't feel like that was what was happening. I feel like it was just very much like, period, don't get pregnant.
Yeah.
Does it. Like,
and you can get pregnant at any point in time.
At any point in time.
I just remember, like,
yes,
if you see a penis, you're pregnant.
You're pregnant.
Like, it's
if
done.
you even think about a penis, you're pregnant. Literally.
Done. You're pregnant.
Literally.
So, yeah.
I laugh all the time. I'm like,
yeah. Like, where's that happening? I'm not seeing it. Are you kidding me?
Oh my God. Yeah. I'm glad we all feel that. Yes. I wasn't alone in the miseducation of the periods.
No. And I don't even want to tell you how old I was when I learned that you couldn't get pregnant every day of your cycle. It was
awesome. Same.
Yeah. And I had
very much so
school
later in life.
Nursing school. I was like, what? Like,
wild. A wild concept. Yeah.
It's pretty crazy.
Well, we're all just relearning together the proper things now. So better late than never.
One more thing, because I totally got on it. So in your luteal phase, when your temperature's risen, progesterone's taken the show, you can actually, that's when you kind of start feeling like tired. You don't really want to do much. So if you're not lifting as heavy, it's not because you're not strong enough. It's because you're in your luteal phase. So don't give yourself some grace here. Maybe do some stretching, do yoga, those types of things. Pilates is a good one, but you don't need to kill yourself and max out right now. That's not the time. So,
that's a fair point.
Yes.
So I know we've discussed a lot. We discussed gut health and our cycles and fertility optimization and functional wellness and all these different things. But if someone's like, okay, this all sounds great, like, where do I start? Like, what would you want them to leave this episode with as we try to kind of wrap up our chit chat?
Yeah. So how much water are you drinking? So start there. Make sure you're hydrated. And you know what? The first week, just say, okay, I'm going to make sure that, I drink 64 ounces of water. If that's really hard for you, start with 32. And then the next week, start at 64. And then from that, what does my breakfast look like? I'm going to try to get, 30 to 40 grams for my breakfast. Do that for a week or two, make that into a habit, and then go to your dinner and then go to your lunch and those types of things. But do not by any means do it all at one time, because you're going to putz out and you're going to be so gung-ho in the beginning. You're going to say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. I'm getting rid of every single plastic piece in my entire house because I'm no more scented anything, and I'm going to eat so clean and all this. And then you're going to be in a puddle of tears in 2 months when you're like, all I want is cookies, I'm sad, and this sucks. So let's make this sustainable and start small. You don't have to go towards gut health or anything, and just start educating on what's normal for a menstrual cycle. Like, I love the fertility awareness method, because you basically, you're tracking your temperatures, you're tracking, your cervical mucus and all of those things. Start getting to know your body, so then you feel comfortable in it and you know how your body operates. So I feel like when people really feel like they're out of control and start getting stressed is when they feel like they have to rely on people to tell them what their body's doing, because they don't know what their body is doing. So I want to give you the power back to you. Let's educate you. Let's make you really confident in what you're doing and how you're tracking and how you're feeling. And let's get you, nutritious and, things like that, and your mindset right. But it all is, unfortunately, it's that time piece that nobody likes to hear. But you would be very surprised what you can do in 3 months by just doing, a week at a time. Okay, week 1, I'm just going to work on my water, and then, keep chipping away at it.
Yeah. No, seriously, like 3 months, man, you can make significant changes to a number of things. I feel like I was always told that, like, hey, like, we start here. If you do a solid 3 months of whatever the protocol was or whatever the change was, you really can make a really big impact. And when you break it down in that, okay, I just got 3 months, guys, 90 days, because it goes by so fast. And so, we think about how quickly a quarter goes. It's like, right now it's already March. You can make significant change, being, as you mentioned, educating yourself, taking your power back. I love that. Because again, like I said, if you're always relying or having to rely on others to tell you what's happening, like you said, that just, it adds an extra layer of just, I'm out of control. So I love that. So tell us about Holsoma Health. And if someone wants to reach out to you or find you, if they're in your area or if they just want to connect, like, how can they do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have an Instagram. I have my, what is that called? TikTok. Oh God, now I sound so old. I have a TikTok. I had to learn how to use Instagram. I was like, I got to do this for my business here. But no, I have an Instagram. I have TikTok. I have a YouTube channel. My 11-year-old son helped me with that.
That's awesome.
I have my Holsoma Health website. So you can reach me on there. And then in Florida, I actually work with really awesome providers. It's called Island Direct Primary Care. So I see them through there. And you can get a little bit more high touch here as well. So it's like I have two hats, but it's like the same thing.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, Megan, thank you again. Mentioned it earlier, but thank you for saying yes. Thank you for reaching out to be a part of our community. I hope that people are inspired to just start wherever they are, and not feel like they have to, like you said, get it all done and just be perfect and buy all the glass Tupperware in the store and go to Whole Foods tomorrow. Like, we can do small things.
When you're in Ross or in your TJ Maxx, just buy one glass Tupperware. buy one glass Tupperware at a time and throw out one glass.
Yes.
Just it doesn't have
you don't have to have all the things in order to get started. It doesn't have to look perfect. It doesn't have to be aesthetically pleasing. Like, you can just literally start wherever you are. And as you mentioned, make just small changes that do create big impact. So thank you for being a space and a light in our community. Thank you for doing the work that you do for women, especially. And yeah, you all know what to do. Connect with Megan, connect with me at Fertility Ain't Fair on everything. Listen to past episodes wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. And what else? Newsletter. Please make sure you sign up for the newsletter on fertilityaintfair.com. And if you're in the Richmond area, something new is coming. I'm collaborating with someone to start a yoga and infertility resource series in Richmond. So if you're in Richmond, Virginia, or in the area, we're looking to have you sign up for free on Eventbrite. It's called The Holding Space. And if you look us up on social media, it's The Holding Space RVA. So that's something new that I'm looking forward to. I'm super excited about, to bring movement, as we mentioned, into your life, no matter if you're starting your journey, at the end of your journey, in the middle of it all. Like, come as you are. We have the mats. You bring the story. We got you. But other than that, I will talk to you guys on the next episode, and looking forward to all the things that we have coming up in the rest of this season. So as I always say, I'm your forever friend in fertility. So stay hopeful.